All right, what should we call this? Lyng's new podcast?
The Lyng podcast.
The Lyng podcast. So I am Chase Lyng with Supreme Lending. I'm here with my dad, Ryan Lyng, who is also with Supreme Lending. And we're going to talk about, the Supreme difference. So let me ask you this, Dad. So, I have, growing up, I saw you work for many mortgage companies. And you once told me that you would never leave Supreme. So why Supreme?
So, there's a lot of reasons why Supreme. Both personally and professionally. On a personal level, I've been doing this for almost 25 years. I never have worked at a place where I have felt more included, more cared for, more loved. I come to work and I know that the people that I work with and the people above me in management, they truly care for me and my well-being. My life has changed so much in the past 6 years, not just professionally, but personally as well. Just unbelievable environment. And I know a lot of people say that, but I've just never, ever been at a place that has felt so good.
And that's true. I wake up every single day actually wanting to go to work. How many people can say they want to go to work, right?
Not a lot.
So there is definitely a true sense of care in this company. I feel that the people who, directly look over me truly care about where I'm headed and what's going to happen. And what I think is so cool about that, and it's part of, Supreme's values, is, putting the employees first, right? And because then in turn, when you feel cared about, you can take care of your clients better. And I absolutely see the effect in that every single day, with our operations team who just cares so much about everything going on. And I feel that allows me to care more for my customers rather than worrying about everything else.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally. And then from a professional standpoint, we are just set up so well with the operations team and the programs and the products and just the way that we run business. Professionally, we have just every tool that we need to provide the industry's best in customer service in the mortgage business, like nothing I've never seen.
Well, let's talk
before.
about that. So what makes Supreme better? Why have you been here for 6 years?
So
outside of everything we just talked about.
Sure. So, just off the top, there are loans that we can do at Supreme that I haven't been able to do before at other places. And I haven't worked at a ton of places, but I've worked at a few other mortgage companies. And at Supreme, the underwriters are always looking for a way to say yes, as opposed to most companies that are always looking for a way. The underwriter's always looking for a way to say no. And I don't like to use the word like we do things out of the box, because we actually don't do things outside of the box. We actually find a way to get it done inside the box.
Just look a little deeper into the box.
Correctly. So our underwriters, literally, they're like reverse trained. They're not looking for a way to say no. They're looking for a way to say yes. And they know these underwriting guidelines backward and forward. They comb through them. When they encounter a problem, they dig deeper into those guidelines and they find a way to make it fit. And I have gotten more loans done than I've ever gotten done before at another company, where just, oh my God, we have a huge problem. And my initial thought is not like, oh man. My initial thought is, okay, we have a problem.
What do we do?
How are we going to solve it?
Right.
And we do.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and to touch on that. So for those of you who don't know, I started as a processor. And what I loved about that, I'm prior military, and the way they train here at Supreme, new loan officers who've never been in the business, they start you in operations, teach you the business on the backside, and then, let you go out and be a loan officer. And the reason they do that is so that you can understand the other side of the house before jumping in to be a loan officer. And it's just such a good way to train. The military does the exact same thing. So after several months in the company, kind of understanding how Supreme works and, of course, their values, that's what made me really be like, this is a good company. This is where I need to be. This is the way to do it.
Yeah, you started a little differently than I started.
I started a lot differently than you started.
It was, there were no computers. Well, actually, there was one computer we all had to take turns using it, and I got a pen, a paper, a desk, and a phone. Like they practically just threw me a phone book. That was the training.
Yeah, I have talked to several people who were in the business around the same time as you when I was maybe in diapers, and I don't, I do not know how it was done. There is so much that goes on, and I'm sure probably the volume has changed. You know, I'm sure you can handle so much more volume now that there's more software and computers and things to help carry that load. But regardless, it sounds like you were probably in the car a lot.
Speaking of diapers, I mean, I have some diaper stories of you.
Yeah.
Do you want me to share them?
No, that's okay. That's all right. We'll just keep talking about Supreme, I think.
Okay.
All right. So let's talk about our operations. I think, so we close in 8 days. And when people hear that we close in 8 days, the first question is, or usually they'll either say like, how, jaw
Right.
drop. Or they'll no, you don't. How do you do that? You can't do that.
Yep.
And so how do we do that? How do we close in 8 days?
It's funny. So I remember when I interviewed with Pat Flood and Nick Yergin, and one of the things they told me during the interview was that they could close loans in 8 days. And I remember going home thinking like 8 days. Yeah, right.
Can't close a loan in 8 days.
But I liked enough of what they said, right? So I really fell in love with the company. So I came and joined Supreme, but I still didn't think we could close loans in 8 days. But I found out pretty quickly that we could. And it's so funny, like every time, like the real estate agents that we work with on the buy side that, know, love, and trust us, they've been a part of it so many times, they know that we can actually close in 8 days. But every time that listing agent is just, there's no way you can close it in 8 days. And I always say like, I will see you at the closing
in
table
8 days.
In 8 days.
Yeah.
And we can talk about it then. And then they become believers, right? They got to see it before they believe it. But how do we close a loan in 8 days?
Yeah. So, part of it goes back to, of course, how well the company treats its employees. People want to work here. They want to go to work. They want to do the work. But also it's the way it's structured.
It's the machine,
it's
right?
It's a machine. It's a powerhouse. And that's what I tell people all the time is like, when you agree to work with me, you're not agreeing to work with me. You're agreeing to work with the powerhouse behind me.
Correct.
And, we have in-house underwriters. We have processors. Like I said, I started as one. We also have a mortgage loan specialist who, can start a file in 5 minutes. So we just have a lot of resources at our disposal that most lenders don't have.
Yeah, we've got an appraisal team. We got a compliance team. We literally have a closing department. And the closer is literally sitting there at their desk waiting for the attorney to send them the funding docs so that they can fund the loan. Sometimes if a closing goes long, I'm getting a text from the closer saying, hey, I haven't received the funding docs yet. Like we're literally reaching out wondering why the attorney has not finished, has not sent the funding docs yet. We're on it. We're on every single, it's almost like an assembly line. Everybody kind of does their own.
A certain job in the line.
Yeah, a certain part of the job. And we just don't make it difficult.
Yes.
It does not take 30 to 45 days to close a loan.
No, it does not. We do it in 8.
Yes.
Well, yeah. And that's, part of what I think is important is that everybody does their individual job. And then the customer, and some customers only want to work with you, and that's fine. But I let my clients know like, hey, throughout this process, you're going to hear from so-and-so, and it's because they're doing this, and they're, just trying to get you to the closing table. And it just shows that not only is this one guy helping me, but he has a whole team behind him.
Correct.
That is trying to get me into a home.
Yeah. And actually we can actually close in faster than 8 days. We just can't do it by law.
Just can't do it legally.
Right. So we have to give the 7-day cooling off period, and we close on the 8th day. But I have literally taken a file, submitted it, have it approved with conditions the next day, have all those conditions met on day 3. On day 4, we get the appraisal, send it in for clear to close, and we're clear to close 4 or 5 days. And now we just got to wait
for them
the
to find
day.
a home. Well, so that's the other thing too, is when we do it like this, we're, the first thing I do when I pre-approve somebody is, I look at everything, pre-approve them, and then I'm asking for their documents up front. We do underwriting up front, which a lot of companies don't do that. And the reason we do that is one, when they put in an offer, it's going to be a lot stronger than somebody else's.
Yep.
Because they've already been underwritten. And then it makes the process a lot smoother when they do go under contract.
Yeah, you just hit on something too about, and then they got to find a home. So if we're working with somebody and we get all their documents up front and we can actually submit that loan to underwriting and get it fully underwritten, income, assets, everything.
The whole thing.
Everything done within days. And so what that does, helping the real estate agent out and then ultimately the buyer, is when they're submitting that offer, and the market right now is there's not a lot of inventory on the market. So if a house goes up for sale, there's typically a lot of people trying to put in offers on that house, right? So we do a couple things. We do 0 days financing contingency. So we've already had that customer underwritten. So when you're submitting an offer, you can put 0 days financing contingency. Listing agents, sellers, they love that.
And I tell agents all the time is you use Supreme, it's going to be as good to a cash offer as you can get.
Yes.
If you go toe to toe with a cash offer, this is as good as it's going to get.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can also do, a lot of times people will put 14 days or 21 days as an appraisal contingency. We can do an 8-day appraisal contingency, and we can actually get an appraisal back in 8 days. Listing agents love that as well.
Yes, absolutely.
So they're just, and on top of, being able to do 0 days financing, 8 days appraisal contingency, we actually, I hate to use the word, it kind of sounds like a, I don't know, cliche, but we actually put our money where our mouth is. So we don't just email or issue a pre-approval letter, but on page 2 of the pre-approval letter, we have the Supreme guarantee. We actually guarantee that the loan will close and fund on time, or we'll refund the borrower's earnest money up to $5,000.
Yes, that is true. That's true. And I don't talk about that enough, because that is a huge benefit to working with Supreme. And the other thing, when we were talking about the appraisals, I actually had a couple weeks ago a hiccup on one of our sales contract. They had put a 3-day appraisal contingency. And not that we want to do it all the time, but guess what? We got that appraisal back and we made it happen.
Yes.
So we are very capable.
Yeah. So, we use an appraisal management company just like every other lender out there does. You have to. It's a part of the guidelines and the laws and restrictions and whatnot. But we work with one of the best appraisal management companies out there, and they know our level of expectation. And they get it back to us. If we need it in 24, 48 hours,
we get it done.
It's not something we like to do.
Yes, that's why I prefaced it with, it's not something we want to do. Don't just go right in 3 days on there, but it is, we've made it happen.
Yes.
Before.
And please, real estate agents, don't write 3 days. Don't send us the contract for 2 days.
Yes.
Now we only have 1 day.
Yes. Let's see what else.
None of you guys would do that, though.
Yeah, nobody would else.
Nobody watching this podcast would do that.
So, what do we have cooking? What's new? What's exciting?
$1,000 credit toward closing costs.
Yes. Supreme Essentials. So we just launched this program February 1st. And what is so great about this program is it is a class that your clients can go online, and they'll actually go to your landing page, the real estate agent's landing page, take this class, or take these 2 classes. They both take about 30 minutes apiece. One of them is all about the fundamentals of budgeting. It's a phenomenal class, has a lot of great material for it. And then also credit essentials, which we have Lisa Myers, who works for our company. You want to talk about Lisa real quick?
Yeah. She has been in the credit world for almost 30 years. She's amazing. We call her the credit whisperer. She knows how to take someone's credit and get it up 5 points, 10 points, 50 points, 100 points.
Yeah.
Like, you name it.
She's amazing. She's incredible.
And she's just been doing it so long. A lot of mortgage companies, the majority of mortgage companies will have some kind of software system that they use to say, I've got a 650 score. How do I get it up to a 680? And the computer will spit back some recommendations, and then you do those things and hope the credit score goes up. But Supreme Lending actually has a real person, Lisa Meyer, who has got 30 years of experience. She's actually smarter than that computer. So many times she tells the client exactly what they need to do, and she can nail that score like the score will be a 702, and lo and behold, it comes back at like a 703. Like,
yes.
nuts.
Yeah. She's awesome. And I do that for, and I do want to go back to Supreme Essentials, but for Lisa, so this is something I do for clients, even if they do qualify, maybe their score could just use some improvement, maybe to get some better pricing. I will send them over to Lisa, and Lisa will give us the plan, give us the path. The path. That's what I actually say all the time is I'm gonna give you a path.
Right.
And we'll get that score up, even if they already qualify.
Yeah, because there's something called, LLPAs, a little mortgage jargon there, but it's loan level pricing adjustments, right? So the interest rate at a 700 credit score is going to be a little bit higher than at a 720 credit score or a 760 credit score.
Yeah.
Or
so
a
even
780
though
credit score.
660 might qualify, it might be advantageous to get that score up to get some better pricing.
Yeah, and we'll just say, hey, that City Financial credit card you got there, you're at 40% of the limit. We asked Lisa. She said if you pay it down to $2,000, your score should go up 20 points.
And then it does.
And it's just that simple.
Yes. And a lot of people, the worst thing about that is, and this will we can talk more about Supreme Essentials, but so many people have a misnomer on how credit actually works and operates, and they think that if they do this, then that'll happen. And the reality is no one really knows. I had no idea how credit worked until I got into this business, and of course started listening to Lisa. But so we used to have Lisa teach a class on Fridays at 1:00 for home buyers, and would teach them all about credit. And what do we have now?
Well, now we have the 30-minute. It's about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
It's self-paced.
I took it. I think it was 30 minutes.
Yeah, it's an online self-taught course. Lisa has a bunch of video presentations. There's a couple quizzes that go through it, and then obviously a 10-question final exam. But by the end of it, literally, you learn things about credit that you didn't know before. You're very well educated on how it works, why it works. How many people have come to you and said, I have a 700 credit score, and then you find out that's their Credit Karma credit score, right?
Yeah. Which a lot of people, you can take the class. They'll talk all about that.
Right.
But
so Credit Karma is great. I actually use Credit Karma. It tells me exactly.
You just got to understand that it's not going to be.
Yeah, it tells me all of my debts, exactly what I owe. Like, there's so many things that Credit Karma does for me, and that's how I monitor my credit. But I just don't look up at the top where it says that that's my credit score. It's a generic FICO model. It is not going to be
accurate.
It's not going to be what the lender pulls.
Yes.
And it could be 20 points lower. It could be 60 points lower.
I literally ran into this last week. Someone said, "Oh, my credit score is this," and I was like, "Okay, cool. Let's take a look." And I look, and I was like, "I'm sorry to tell you, but that's not what your credit score is."
Yeah, my first question is, "Oh, okay, so you have a 750 credit score. Where are you getting that data?
Where are you
from?"
getting that information?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Where are you getting that information from? And even the credit card companies now, Bank of America or Citi or whatever, they have a credit monitoring system, and they give you your credit report number. But it's a generic, all-encompassing score, so it's not going to be mortgage specific. I always use the example, if you were to apply for to buy a car, buy a house, and get insurance all on the same day, all three different industry professionals would tell you your credit score was three different things.
Yes.
And that's because of the different credit models.
The way they pull them. Yeah.
Correct.
So what was I going to say? So if you complete this class, there's two of them really, because we didn't talk about budget essentials.
Right.
But it'll give you $1,000 toward your closing cost. So
yep. So
there's that benefit as well.
Yeah. So you get $500 lender credit toward both for both classes. So the credit essentials class, the budget essentials class, to total up to $1,000 lender credit to go toward your closing cost, which is amazing. The budget class. I know we talked a lot about credit essentials.
Supreme Essentials is amazing, and everyone always talks about the credit part, but the budget class is awesome.
Right. So the budget class is awesome. Like, as soon as I took the budget class, I was like, oh my God, my son's got to take this class. Like,
yeah.
you already work here, so I knew you were going to take the class, but I wanted Miles to take the class. There are apps that they can download, Excel spreadsheets they can download. There's different websites and articles. It's just an amazing bunch of resources. Not that people my age don't need help with budgeting. trust me, we do. And the class is very helpful. But for people your age and younger,
Absolutely.
I mean, the class just blew me away.
And actually, because of my age, I do tend to get clients that are closer to my age. And when I bring this up, especially if their parents are in the room, which happens a lot, they're, oh, this is amazing. We got to do this. And they take it and they love it.
Sure.
So it is great. It's really great for everybody, not just people my age and younger, but really anybody. Because there's older people who just have never had to do it. And that's,
most of the people who take these classes, they take them, initially they want the $1,000.
They want the $1,000.
Right?
Yeah.
But after they take the class,
that was really good.
They'll tell me different things that they learned and things they're going to change in their budget. And I also wanted to mention, because I kept thinking, what am I forgetting? I wanted to say something. But going back to the credit essentials, a lot of people think that they can fix their credit score on their own. They know what they're going to do. They're going to they've had those charge-offs or collections that have been on there for years. I'm just going to go ahead and pay those off. My score will go up. And obviously
that's not true.
That doesn't happen, right? Sometimes you pay off a collection
and it's going down.
Your score just stays the same, or it actually drops and goes down.
Right.
So one of the tricks Lisa has is she will literally tell you, okay, this specific collection company, they will negotiate, and if we can get them to settle and they agree to delete it off of your credit, that will help your credit score down. And if they don't, then don't pay it. And there's just all those kind of little tricks that she knows. So if you try to do it on your own, you may waste thousands of dollars and see nothing happen.
No improvement.
Correct.
And so that's another thing that was apparent to me why Supreme was so different is because when I was trained as a loan officer, it wasn't just, learning the business and blah, 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 blah. It was almost like you're not just a loan officer. You're an educator. You need to be able to help people understand what is the best path for them. A lot of times when I sit down with people, I give them multiple options and say, hey, this is what it's going to look like with this. And you need to help people to understand what they're getting into. And credit is a huge part of that, especially when credit plays a huge factor. Especially with a lower score, they need to understand how to fix it. And Lisa, with that resource, allows us to be an even better educator.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Shifting gears, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Interest rates.
Yeah.
They're awesome right now, right?
Yeah, they're great.
You picked a good time to just follow in your dad's footsteps.
Yes, I did. So interest rates. Let's talk about how Supreme is trying to relieve the stress of interest rates.
Right, because obviously interest rates are not awesome.
Yes,
right
but there's tons of things that we can do. When seller concessions are available, I love doing a temporary buy down. That's awesome, and that can help a lot. Now, but we have two new programs that we just started to help alleviate that stress. What are those programs?
When we were running this through earlier, trying to prep.
Yeah,
I totally forgot about the temporary buy down. There's just
I didn't even think about it. It just dawned on me. I talk about the temporary buy down almost every day.
Right, but there's just so much going on.
Yes,
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
So you're talking about the two-step, right?
The two-step.
Hit me with the two-step.
Let's talk about a little two-step. So.
At your wedding, I saw you do.
Yeah, do some two-stepping. You like that?
That was cheesy. I got dad jokes.
So the two-step refinance. This is something that I feel we don't even talk about enough. I find myself getting into a conversation. I bring it up. I was like, why am I not talking about this every day?
Right.
So what Supreme is doing is we are giving the incentive. If a buyer closes with us initially, we're offering them up to $2,000, or really we're covering their lender fees.
Right.
So when they refinance. So and then to complement that program, we also launched a program called MaxCap. And what MaxCap does is it gives us the ability. The client needs to opt in and allow us to do it. We'll monitor the market for them. And then we'll let them know when it's a good time, so they don't have to sit there and watch rates, which they might not even really fully understand because it's something you have to be versed in. And then we'll let them know, hey, it's time. Let's start thinking about it.
Yeah. So I have always kept tabs on my customers even after they buy the house. I want to be your loan officer for life. I want to be your resource for life. I'm not going away after the deal is done.
This is one of those differences of someone who didn't start with Supreme and someone who did, because I've never had to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so I'll follow along. And if it gets to a point where I think, yeah, you should probably refinance and we can save you, $200, $300, $400, $500 a month, I'll make that phone call. But now there's a software, Supreme software that will do it for us. You guys, you young kids
we're blessed. Yeah. We're blessed.
Inventing ways for our lives to be a little easier.
Yes.
So yeah, now the software will actually monitor it, and it'll be specific to that specific homeowner's situation and their loan. And so once the algorithm or whatever decides that, hey, it's
time to start thinking about it,
they'll get notified, we'll get notified, and then we'll get together and have a conversation. It's ultimately their choice if they want to refinance.
Absolutely.
They could say,
but that's also where the two-step comes into play.
Yeah, I mean, they could say, well, I think rates are going to come down even more, I want to wait, and then that's fine. The home owner is still the decision maker in the process.
And for real estate agents, I wish that I brought this up more, because this is a good way for real estate agents to leverage as well, because so many people are concerned about getting into the home because of the rates. And the reality is not many people know, but here in Georgia we have a housing shortage, and if you wait too long, sometimes maybe you're waiting for those rates to come down, but now everybody's here in the market trying to buy a home, and now you're not able to. So something I talk to agents a lot is like, you need to be telling them they need to marry this house and they need to date the rate.
Yep.
And that's where our two-step refinance can help. MaxCap can help, because you don't want to wait and then now you're renting forever.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to talk technical or economical for a second. So yeah, so rates are high. As a result, a lot of people are not putting their houses on the market. There's a lot less sales going on.
Yes.
Right? So once interest rates start to come down,
what's going to happen?
Home values are going to start to go up, right?
All those people that were waiting in 2021 that didn't make it, they're going to come on back.
Right. And then the home values are going to go up. So what you could buy for $400 today, you might be buying for $450 6 months from now.
Right.
So you might get a lower rate, but you
can't afford the house anymore.
But the house might be $50,000 higher. You may not be able to afford it.
Yeah.
But if you buy right now, when prices are still very reasonable, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, whatever the case may be, we'll kick in that Supreme two-step or the Supreme guarantee. We'll waive all of our Supreme costs, and we'll get you in at the lower interest rate.
Yes, absolutely.
So you can have the best of both worlds.
Yes.
Worlds.
Yeah, that's worlds. Yeah. That's just one of the many ways that Supreme, for agents, we just want to put as many tools in their tool belt as possible.
Yep.
And then for home buyers, we want to relieve that stress. We want to make this a painless process. Buying a home is one of the biggest decisions you'll ever make in your life. And with Supreme, we want to make sure that it is not the most stressful decision of your life.
Absolutely. You mentioned the temporary buy downs.
Yes.
Love this right now. I personally like the 1 year buy down. It's my favorite because it's the cheapest. But just to kind of explain it real briefly, it's a temporary buy down. So we're giving you a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, but we can make the interest rate 1% lower for year one or 2% lower for year one.
If it's a 2-1.
Right. Depending on...
I do like the 2-1. I use this 2-1.
Right. Depending on how we structure it. The reason it's seller paid. So the seller oftentimes will agree to pay a portion of closing costs, and you can actually use some of that money to buy down your interest rate for 3 years, 2 years, or 1 year. The reason I love the 1 year the best is because it is the absolute cheapest to get for seller paid contribution. You buy the interest rate down 1% for a year, and we've just been sitting here talking about how we expect interest rates to come down. And it's not just we expect interest rates to come down.
And this allows the consumer, the client, to the home buyer. It allows them to wait for the refinance, wait to be able to refinance, still get in the house, but still pay a reasonable mortgage payment that fits into their budget.
Right. So we temporarily discount their rate by 1% for year one. And then before year two hits, because of course year 2 through 30, the interest rate's going to be the normal rate. we kick in the Supreme two-step. We refinance you and pull you down to the market rate,
Right.
6 to 9 months from now. And it's not just us saying that we think interest rates are going to come down. Of course, nobody knows what's going to happen. But,
every time I talk about rates, I preface with, I cannot predict the future.
Correct.
But this is what I'm seeing.
Correct. And there's a guy who also cannot predict the future, but he's really good at it.
He is.
Doug Duncan.
Doug Duncan.
Chief economist for Fannie Mae. And we talk to him on the regular. I don't personally.
No, that's a little above our pay grade.
But Pat Flood,
yes,
he talks to Doug Duncan all the time. And
if you guys want to know why Supreme is so great, it's Pat Flood.
Sure,
it is.
Very true.
Yes.
And I mean, for lack of a better analogy, I mean, Doug just gets paid to sit in a room and prognosticate, right? And he's very, very good at it and very, very accurate. And we feel very certain, based on his expertise, that we'll be doing the Supreme two-step in a couple months and lowering a bunch of interest rates.
Yeah. So, point is, it's going to get better. It's starting to get better.
Sure.
And we'll see what happens. But for now, take advantage of what we have available to help alleviate client stress and get people in homes. That's what it's all about. At the end of the day, it's about getting people in homes.
Yeah. We've talked a lot about Supreme. I will say, and I think I can speak for both of us in this regard, that communication and availability is key.
Absolutely.
Most people are not buying houses between 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. I'm on the phone answering calls at 8 o'clock at night. What time did you say you got done last night?
I was done about 8:30, 9 o'clock last night.
Yeah.
And actually, I have been. I have a mentor here at Supreme, and one time I was laying in my bed at 11 o'clock reading my book, and he's texting me asking about a file. So it doesn't stop. I like to say I'm 24/7, except for when I'm putting my daughter to bed. That's the only time I might not answer.
Right. Yes.
But yeah, we're all day.
Yeah. So all nights and weekends. That's when people buy houses typically, and we are going to be available during those times.
Absolutely.